is he doing here? I thought I got rid of you. I'm across the country, yet somehow, some way, you find yourself right here in front of me asking questions. Oh, goodness.
Caitlin Clark walked into the interview expecting a normal day. Instead, she found the one reporter who has caused more tension around her fan base than anyone else this season. The moment she saw him, the entire energy shifted.
Folks, you ever have that one person that you'll be around, whether it's at work, right? Whether it was at school growing up, maybe a family reunion, a family gathering, a get-together, the in-law shows up, the cousin shows up, the uncle, the aunt, and then just instantly, as soon as they arrive, the energy just shifts.
Her smile faded, her posture changed, and fans immediately noticed something was off. This wasn't irritation. This wasn't attitude. This was a boundary being drawn in real time. After months of watching her fans get mocked, misquoted, and blamed for controversy, Caitlin finally made it clear she wasn't letting that slide anymore. And this moment exposed the truth behind it.
Caitlin, Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files. I'm just curious, what was it like to have that competitive juices?
Damn. Head down, like damn. No eye contact, damn.
Caitlin Clark's reaction did not come out of nowhere. It started from the moment the reporter stepped into the room. Fans who watched the clip noticed how quickly the energy shifted around her. Caitlin had been relaxed, focused, and in control before the interview began. But as soon as she recognized who was approaching with a microphone, her entire demeanor tightened. Her shoulders stiffened, her eyes dropped, and the warmth she usually carries completely disappeared. It was not subtle. It was immediate.
Running through you once again, even though and then also putting on a show as someone who knows the fans are here to see you.
Yeah, I mean, like these are the things that you love, like being competitive, and you know, even when I go out and play with family or friends or whoever, like you make it competitive. Like you don't just go out there and hit the ball. Like you make a game out of it. You know, you do have a 2v2, you do whatever. And I think that's what the fun part about golf. And you know, really with anything I do in life, I'm pretty competitive. So I probably wouldn't play golf if I didn't feel those competitive juices flowing. So I think that's certainly part of it that I love.
Something about this interaction touched a nerve, and she was no longer interested in giving the moment more emotion than required. To understand why that mattered, you have to remember the relationship Caitlin has built with her supporters. Her fans show up early. They travel across states, they pack arenas, and line up hours before games or events. They defend her, cheer for her, and follow her every highlight. She knows what they pour into supporting her, and she respects every bit of that commitment. So when someone disrespects the very people who keep her going, it hits differently. It lands deeper, and it stays with her.
Now let's just compare that to a different question that Caitlin Clark fielded, shall we? Let's just compare the two. Let's just compare how she's like, oh shit, let me muster it up. Get it together, Caitlin, get it together. Now, let's look at something a little bit more genuine, shall we?
Lynn, I'm Caroline Collins from Visit St. Pete Clearwater over here. Hi, great job out there.
Damn! Look at that. Look at that smile.
That is why the setup of this interview was so intense. Seeing the person who openly dismissed her fanbase as a problem, who framed them as a negative force, instantly changed the tone. Instead of the usual spark she shows when she is comfortable, Caitlin kept the moment strictly business. Short answers, limited expression, bare minimum effort. She was there because she had to be, not because she wanted the exchange. It was the kind of controlled, quiet response that speaks louder than anger ever could.
Laying up like a Christmas tree.
Here today, just wanted to ask you if you and your teammates got to do anything fun in the St. Pete Clearwater.
Look at that, dude. The whole entire time this woman's asking the question, Caitlin Clark's making perfect eye contact with her.
What made this moment even more gripping was how the crowd responded. Fans watching from the sidelines felt the tension immediately. They recognized the shift and understood that this was not just an athlete being drained or tired. This was someone protecting her people. This was someone remembering what had been said about the community that follows her everywhere. And that small reaction from Caitlin was all it took for the discussion to explode online.
You have to think that Caitlin Clark does care about her image. She does care about her standing with fans. And if you look at some of the biggest controversies around the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, most likely this season, you'll think of two scenarios, right? Scott Agnes calling Fever fans the dark side, her fans bringing a darkness with them, a dark cloud with them. That's one. That she probably didn't like that. Number two, Scott Agnes taking it upon himself to reveal an injury that the team was actively hiding. And that created even more division within the fan base. Caitlin Clark has to be looking at him like, dude, the amount of shit you did to the fans that follow me, the amount of division that you cause within the fan base that follows me, I'm gonna have to let you feel it a little bit, Scott.
The moment Caitlin Clark lowered her head and avoided eye contact, people online immediately started asking the same question. Why him? Why that reaction? Why was her energy so different with this particular reporter compared to everyone else in the room? To understand it, you have to go back to the comments and actions that created tension long before this interview ever happened. Caitlin is not someone who lashes out publicly. She does not rant on social media or call people out by name, but she remembers who respects her supporters and who does not. She remembers who twists narratives and who fuels unnecessary drama. This reporter had a history that fans have not forgotten. At one point, he described Fever fans as bringing a dark cloud into the season and suggested that their energy was a problem. Those comments did not sit well with the people who show up hours early to support their team, and they did not sit well with Caitlin either. These are the same fans who have been filling arenas since the moment she arrived in the league. They are the same fans who buy tickets the moment they go on sale. Follow the Fever on the road and turn ordinary games into sold-out events. Disrespecting them is the same as disrespecting her. Then there was the moment when he revealed an injury the team was intentionally keeping private. Fans were already on edge because of the unnecessary drama around Caitlin's physical condition, and that leak made everything worse. Instead of protecting the team's privacy, he turned it into a headline. Instead of giving Caitlin the space she needed, he added more pressure. That created real division among the fan base and damaged trust between players and media. So when he showed up with a microphone, Caitlin's reaction made perfect sense. She did not need to say anything. Her body language said it all. Cold, guarded, uninterested. She was not going to give him extra enthusiasm or pretend the past never happened. She was there to answer the question and move on, nothing more. And that subtle response spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. What truly set the internet on fire was not Caitlin Clark's cold response to the reporter. It was what happened right after. A different reporter approached her, someone she had never shown discomfort toward, and instantly the atmosphere flipped. Her shoulders relaxed, her face lit up, her tone softened. She made full eye contact the entire time. It was the kind of natural warmth she gives when she feels respected, safe, and genuinely appreciated. In one moment, fans saw two sides of Caitlin, not because she was moody, but because she was selective about who earns her trust, and that contrast was impossible to ignore. When Caroline Collins asked her question, Caitlin smiled before the sentence was even finished. It was the smile of someone who felt seen, not judged. Caroline approached her with positivity, admiration, and support, and Caitlin responded with the same energy. She talked about her childhood vacations, her family memories, and her excitement to be back in a place she cared about. It was easy, natural, and completely unforced. She wasn't performing for the camera. She wasn't pretending. She was simply being herself with someone who treated her fairly. This side-by-side moment made one thing clear. Caitlin Clark is not difficult. She is not rude. She is not dismissive for no reason. She reacts to the energy she receives. When someone carries genuine respect, she returns it without hesitation. When someone carries tension, negativity, or past issues, she keeps it professional and distant. And she did it without raising her voice or calling anyone out. She let her instincts guide her. Fans immediately clipped the two interactions together, showing the dramatic difference frame by frame. Even people who don't follow the WNBA closely could see the truth. Caitlin wasn't overreacting earlier. She wasn't having a bad day. She was protecting her boundaries. That small moment revealed exactly how much she pays attention, what she values, and who she refuses to fake a smile for. And once fans saw that, the conversation took on a whole new life. As soon as the two clips hit social media, the reaction was immediate. Fans saw the difference, understood the context, and defended Caitlin Clark without hesitation. But the people who have been waiting for any chance to drag her seized the moment just as quickly. Instead of acknowledging the clear contrast or the reporter's history of disrespect, they twisted the narrative into something completely different. They called her dramatic. They called her cold. They claimed she was ungrateful, entitled, or letting fame change her. It didn't matter that her reaction was calm and controlled. They needed a new reason to criticize her, and this moment became their latest target. The irony is that Caitlin didn't even do anything outwardly aggressive. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't interrupt. She didn't challenge the reporter or expose his past comments. She simply gave a short answer, kept her distance, and moved on. But in the eyes of her critics, even that was too much. They acted as if she owed warmth to someone who had stirred tension around her entire fan base. They pretended her guarded response came out of nowhere, ignoring every event that led up to this moment. For them, context didn't matter. The only goal was to paint her as the problem. What made the situation even more absurd was how these same critics celebrated her genuine interaction with Caroline Collins. They praised that moment without realizing they were contradicting their own narrative. If Caitlin were truly rude or arrogant, she would have treated every reporter the same. But she didn't. She responded based on energy, respect, and trust, and that inconsistency is what exposed them. The haters weren't reacting to her behavior. They were reacting to her popularity. The bigger truth is that every major star goes through this stage. The more Caitlin grows, the more people will try to twist harmless moments into controversy. It's the price of influence. But in this situation, the hate only made her supporters louder. The backlash only strengthened the bond between Caitlin and the fans who understood exactly why she reacted the way she did. And that unity annoyed her critics more than anything else. The moment haters tried to twist the interaction into a character attack, Caitlin Clark's fanbase responded with full force. They were not confused. They were not shaken. They knew exactly why she reacted the way she did, and they weren't going to let anyone spin the story without context. Within minutes, fans began resurfacing old clips, past interviews, and screenshots that reminded everyone of the reporter's history with the Fever community. They highlighted the time he referred to her supporters as a negative presence. They brought up the injury report he leaked without team approval. They reminded people of the division those actions caused. Slowly, the narrative shifted back to the truth. This wasn't just blind loyalty, it was clarity. Caitlin's fans have watched her navigate criticism, disrespect, and pressure since she entered the league. They've seen her handle intense scrutiny with grace and maturity. She rarely reacts. She rarely responds. She rarely shows frustration. So when she does show discomfort, even in a subtle way, fans know it comes from a real place. Her quiet reaction wasn't an outburst. It was a boundary. And her supporters respected that instantly. What made the fan response even more powerful was how organized it looked. People clipped the interview side by side. They posted comparisons, showing the difference between the cold interaction and the warm one. They added context without being hateful. They didn't attack the reporter personally, they simply laid out the facts, and the receipts spoke louder than any argument. It wasn't chaos, it was clarity. And viewers who hadn't followed the Fever all season finally understood what was happening. As the discussion grew, something became clear. Caitlin's supporters weren't defending her because she's a star. They were defending her because she has consistently defended them. She acknowledges them, appreciates them, and treats them like partners in her journey. She doesn't distance herself from her fan base when things get tense. She stands with them, so when someone disrespects them, her supporters stand with her. That unity created a wave of momentum that completely drowned out the negativity. It proved once again that Caitlin Clark's influence is bigger than her critics, stronger than the noise, and supported by people who recognize her character. To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to understand what Caitlin Clark's fanbase represents to her. These aren't casual supporters who show up once in a while. These are people who have followed her journey from Iowa to the pros, who turn every arena she enters into a home crowd, and who push WNBA attendance to levels the league hasn't seen in years. They buy jerseys, fill airplanes, stand in line for hours, and turn ordinary games into national events. She knows all of this. She feels it every time she steps onto the court, and that's why she is so protective of them. Caitlyn's fans don't just support her, they defend her. Whenever the league media tries to downplay her impact, her supporters bring the stats. Whenever players take shots at her popularity, fans bring the receipts. Whenever a controversy gets twisted, her community pushes back with context. She has never asked them to do it, but she recognizes the difference they make. It's why she signs every autograph she can, interacts with kids after games, and always makes time to show appreciation. She understands the power of connection. She grew her brand not through hype, but through consistency and humility. So when she sees someone who has publicly dismissed those same fans, it's more than a professional disagreement. It becomes personal. Not petty, not emotional, but grounded in loyalty. She isn't the type to confront someone directly, but she also isn't the type to pretend past actions didn't happen. Her guarded reaction wasn't aimed at protecting her ego. It was aimed at protecting the people who have been there for her long before the bright lights of the league. It was a quiet message that respect is a two-way street. This is also why the reaction online was so strong. Fans saw themselves in her expression. They understood she was standing up for them in her own controlled, subtle way. Her distance wasn't a flaw. It was a defense mechanism. It showed that she doesn't move based on pressure or media expectations. She moves based on loyalty, trust, and principle. And that made her supporters even more determined to stand behind her through every moment of rising tension. Once the moment went viral, something bigger became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just about one reporter or one uncomfortable interview. It exposed a growing divide between the old guard of WNBA media and the new wave of attention Caitlin Clark brings. For years, certain reporters operated in a small, tight circle where coverage was predictable, familiar, and rarely challenged. Then Caitlin arrived, bringing millions of new viewers, new expectations, and a level of scrutiny the league wasn't prepared for. Suddenly, every question, every headline, and every piece of commentary mattered, and not everyone adapted well. Some members of the media embraced the change. They saw the growth, appreciated the excitement, and recognized how Caitlin's presence lifted everyone. But others struggled with it. They saw their influence shrinking. They saw new reporters gaining traction. They saw a fan base bigger than anything the league had ever experienced. And instead of welcoming it, they pushed back. That tension created a subtle friction that now shows up in moments, just like this one. The reporter involved in this interaction represents a pattern fans have grown frustrated with. Instead of uplifting the sport during its biggest surge in popularity, some reporters focus on stirring division, criticizing the new audience, or framing Caitlin's impact as a problem rather than a gift. That viewpoint feels outdated and out of touch, especially to fans who invest time, money, and energy into supporting the league. When those same fans are dismissed or labeled unfairly, it only widens the gap. This moment put that divide on full display. Caitlin's reaction was a mirror reflecting the frustrations that have been building all season. It wasn't just about one comment or one leaked injury. It was about a culture clash, a battle between old habits and new expectations, a struggle between protecting traditional media narratives and embracing the undeniable shift happening in the league. Fans didn't just see an awkward interview. They saw a symbol of the growing tension between a superstar who brings transformative attention and a media environment still adjusting to what that means. And it became clear that Caitlin's quiet boundary wasn't an overreaction. It was a response to a system that hasn't fully caught up to her impact.
As the clip spread across social media, people started realizing this wasn't just a small awkward exchange. It was a window into a larger challenge the Indiana Fever have been dealing with all season. Every move Caitlin Clark makes is magnified. Every expression becomes a talking point. Every interaction becomes potential controversy. And when the media surrounding the team fuels tension instead of easing it, the atmosphere around the Fever becomes even more difficult for players trying to focus on basketball. This moment showed just how fragile that balance has become. Caitlin's teammates feel the impact too. When a reporter creates friction with fans or leaks information the team wanted to keep private, it affects everyone. It disrupts trust. It creates unnecessary distractions. It forces players to answer questions they were never supposed to face. And for a young team still trying to build chemistry, these disruptions add up. They can damage momentum. They can create silence in the locker room. They can turn an already intense season into a constant uphill battle. The Fever are not just navigating the pressure of winning games. They're navigating a spotlight none of them had experienced before Caitlin arrived. Moments like this remind everyone how important it is for the team to build a protective environment around her. She is their franchise star, but she is also young, learning, and adapting to massive expectations. When she has to protect herself from media negativity, it removes energy she should be putting toward her development. That is why her reaction matters. It showed that she is aware of what affects team harmony. She understands who brings tension and who brings support. She is not passive about her environment. She reads the room, remembers the past, and reacts accordingly. The fans saw all of this and understood it immediately. They recognized that her quiet resistance wasn't spite. It was awareness. It was leadership. It was someone acknowledging, in the most subtle way, that the Fever need voices who uplift, not divide. And that message echoed far beyond the interview room. This moment wasn't just a viral clip. It was a sign of how Caitlin Clark handles pressure, how she protects her own people, and how she quietly shapes the culture around her. The Fever's future will depend on how well the organization listens to these signals and supports the core values she brings every single day. In the end, Caitlin Clark didn't need to make a scene or call anyone out. A single look, a shift in posture, and the contrast between two simple interviews revealed everything. She showed who she trusts, who she respects, and who she refuses to pretend for. More importantly, she showed how deeply she values the people who support her. Her reaction protected her fans, set a boundary, and reminded everyone that she isn't blind to the narratives around her. This wasn't drama, it was clarity, and it proved that Caitlin Clark's voice is louder even when she barely speaks.